All right, cousin Tone. We are here with a very special guest today, a fellow podcaster and wrestling card collector extraordinaire. I'm talking about our boy Shane Norton, aka Sports Card Nobody. Welcome, Shane, to the Cousins Collectibles podcast. How you doing, my brother?
Man, I'm doing great. Gentlemen, thank you so much for having me on. I've been listening to your guys' podcast, I know for weeks now, or months, I guess, every week and week out. This is the first time I've actually seen the intro with what you guys do for the YouTube. That's a dope intro you got.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah,
I like
Tony
that
came
little
up with
video.
that. That was pretty dope. I was like, yo, that's nice.
It's good, sleek. You guys are high quality here. I love it.
We try, we try. We do the best that we can with the limited budget that we have. So,
Oh, you guys have
it's
a
worth it.
budget? Where do you guys get a
No.
budget from?
Well, whatever Tony wants to throw in there, you know what I mean? That's about it.
Yeah, that's about it. The budget is whatever we get paid on Fridays.
Yeah, I know
Yeah.
all about that.
No, but we appreciate you coming on, Shane. We definitely wanted to get you on. We appreciated when you came out to the National and actually supported us. You were in the crowd cheering us on. So we really, that crowd of 5 people, you were one of them. So we appreciated that. We'll never forget. We really do thank you for that.
20% of the crowd, I'll take it.
No, that was awesome, man. So let's get into it, man. Let's talk about, you, sir, your background, where you grew up, how you got started, and what you're doing in the hobby right now, your PC, so on and so forth. Let us know.
Sure. So, my name's Shane Norton, aka Sports Card Nobody. Born and raised in Connecticut. It's actually where I live now. I kind of got back to Connecticut a few years ago after living out in Los Angeles for about a decade. But yeah, my story is pretty unique with the card stuff. I was a kid and I collected, and then I got out of it, and then I got back. Wait a minute, it's not unique. That's the word I was looking for. I'm just like everybody else.
Yeah.
I don't remember not collecting stuff. From the minute, any memories that I have, it was always something. It was Pogs, it was Magic cards, it was baseball cards, it was Marvel cards, it was comic books. I mean, comic books were huge. I've just always been a collector. It's something inside of me and inside of a lot of us, that just is drawn to having all of these things, these same things that look alike and look nice together.
Yeah.
I collected a lot as a kid. Started to, fade out of it, get into collecting other things. And then back in 2018, I was getting married, and I had this idea. My wife's a Packers fan. We were living in LA at the time. They were going to be coming into town for that season to play the Rams. So I bought some tickets for it. But, when you buy football tickets before they come out, you don't actually have the tickets. I bought them from a season ticket holder, whatever. So I was trying to come up with a good way to present that gift to my wife for our wedding. So I couldn't come up with an idea because I'm a guy and, we don't really do great at these sort of sentimental things. But I think the night before my wedding, I finally came up with the idea, and I woke up the day of my wedding and scampered off to a Target or whatever was local to the area we were getting married. And I wanted to find some football cards. I wanted to find an Aaron Rodgers and a Todd Gurley, 2 of the top players on the teams at that time, and kind of make like a goofy ticket out of those. So I go up to the little rack there. You could actually find cards at Target, although they're coming back now. I think the other day I saw a whole bunch, which is nice. But back then it was obviously a lot easier that it hadn't blown up yet. So I grabbed a whole bunch and I went up to the customer service desk. And there was a lady back there. I was trying to explain to her. I was like, I want to start ripping these packs, but I don't want to buy them all. I'm just looking for 2 cards. So can I just rip open until I find what I want and then like pay for all I've ripped? And she's looking at me and giving me a real side eye. And all of a sudden her like supervisor, the woman walks up and like, you absolutely cannot do that. I'm like, no, wait, listen, I'm getting married, and explain the ticket idea. And as soon as I started talking about getting married, oh yeah, we'll definitely help you. So me and these 2, women, complete strangers, just ripping open all these football cards until we found the 2 that we wanted, bought what was ripped, and then, made my nice little letter. My wife cried. It worked out well. So then after that, I kept the Todd Gurley because I had won my fantasy football league, I think 1 or 2 years at this point. And he was like the MVP of the first year that I won, or maybe it was the second. I won a lot, but whatever. So then I had this idea when I got done with the wedding and the honeymoon and everything, that it would be fun to start collecting the MVPs of the fantasy football stars of the years that I had won. That just opened up the rabbit hole, started going to the baseball cards. And here I am now with a podcast talking about all kinds of cards, I guess. So that's who I am in a nutshell.
That's dope. That's dope. That's how it happens, though. You know, like you said, you're going ahead, you're getting something for your wife, and next thing you know, you just go down this rabbit hole, and it's crazy what this hobby does. For myself, I same thing. Collected, got out, wasn't paying any attention to the hobby, could care less. And my brother came over. I think it was for like a baptism the one day, and I was like, "Yo, I think I got some cards," and then I pulled them out. Like, remember the upper deck locker boxes, the Michael Jordan.
Yeah, for
And they
sure.
had like the series, like it was like 5 or 6 of them. So I had like 2 boxes, and it was just a bunch of junk wax in there. And I'm pulling them
Yeah.
out, and I'm showing my brother. He's like, "Oh, you might have some stuff there." I was like, "Yeah, maybe." So the party was over. He left, and I was like, "You know what? I think I got some more cards." And that's when I found my blue box, and I got all my stuff, and then forget it. The rest is history from there.
Yeah.
It was all junk wax, but to me, it was like, damn, I think I got all this, crazy money here. But it's
Yeah,
just
sure.
amazing how this hobby, you start off, and it mushrooms into this big ass thing. And here we are, like you said, now we're doing a podcast, which is crazy.
Right.
You would never think, you're going ahead, you're looking for football cards at Target, and it's gonna,
Yeah.
a couple years later, you're gonna be talking, sports cards. So to me, it's crazy, man.
And here we are, complete strangers, right? I
Yeah.
never met you guys until the National. Now we're sitting down, sharing some laughs and having some fun. I mean, it's wild what this hobby can do.
Oh yeah, that's the best part to me. It's the relationships that you're building, the networking, and that's what I told Tony. I was like, bro, we can go ahead, we can buy all the cars we want, but the most important thing when we go to the National is meeting all these people. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And just putting going up to them, shaking their hands, giving them a pound, whoever it is.
Yep.
From Shane Norton to Gary V, whoever it is. You know what I'm saying? It's just like it was crazy, it was fun, and we'll get into that your experience with the National, but. Tone,
that is the only time my name is going to be mentioned with Gary V back to back like that. So this is the best podcast I've ever been a part of.
Oh, that's great. So Shane, let's get into that PC a little bit. I know you're a big wrestling guy.
Yes, sir.
And what is it about wrestling that attracts you to it? And just talk about what you're looking to accomplish with that wrestling PC.
Yeah, definitely a big wrestling collector. And there's a number of things that have sort of led to this wrestling collecting monster that I've become in the last 6 months. But there's a phrase that I use that I don't know if I've stolen this from you guys. I may have, because I know that I say it, but then I hear you guys say it, and maybe I stole it. If I did, my bad. But one of the things I adore about collecting anything is the fact that some of these items can really serve as a DeLorean. You get inside of it, hit 88 miles per hour, and you're just back in time to a certain age. And there's a few types of cards that do that to me more than anything. One first is Marvel cards. Marvel, because when I was like 10 years old or whatever it was, the Marvel Series 4 set was out, which is at the time was like the dopest thing I had ever seen. You would collect the cards, and when you would get like 9 of them and you put them in the clear binder pages, it would create one big massive picture. So I was trying to collect that entire set, and then they got stolen from me and I never finished that set. So it became like a priority to me when I started really collecting. I have to buy a box of those to at least have it, which I did, which is awesome to have. But the other thing that really can just pull me back to when, whatever age it was, is the wrestling cards. I can pull out a Bret Hart card, and you can see in my goofy background, I've got like 2 Bret Harts there. I'm such a huge Bret Hart fan. And when I see those cards, I can go back to like those feelings of like wishing I could be a kid in the crowd getting those glasses from Bret Hart, having that raging jealousy inside of me. But what really kind of led to it was my eyes got opened a couple, 6 months ago when this all started through stacking slabs. Is what I kind of credit Brett McGrath. His stuff is absolutely phenomenal. He's a big Peyton Manning collector and a big wrestling collector. So the way he would talk about modern, ultra modern cards with the shiny stuff and the low numbered, it started to make me realize there's actually something there that I didn't realize existed. Couple that with Upper Deck came out with their AEW set, which came out early in the year. It was super delayed. It was supposed to come out in 2021, but it came out early this year. And I'm a big AEW guy. So I wanted to buy that box just for grins, and I had a blast. And then I started learning more and more about all this modern stuff, and especially through Worlds Collide, Zan Morning and Tony Vella, who do phenomenal work covering the wrestling world. I realized that there was something there. So the first thing I did was start to look for Bret Hart cards, because that's my dude. And that kind of really kicked off this sort of like, okay, I kind of want to get into this. So now to make a long story short, too late. I lost a bet. I lost a bet to a couple buddies where I had to buy them each a $20 card, and they were going to be wrestling cards. So I went to a show at Mohegan Sun Casino here in Connecticut, and went to a dealer whom I knew. And sure enough, he had a bunch of wrestling cards, and they turned out to be 2020 finest. And he had 5 of the golds. One of those was an Undertaker and a Triple H, or he had an Undertaker and a Triple H, which either one of those would have settled the bet, but I wanted them all. So I bought everything he had, which the price was really, really pretty good. So I bought them all, and I got home and I was immediately sort of mad that I had to give away one of those cards. But I knew I wanted to like keep this set. It immediately hit me. It's one of the most like beautiful sets I've ever seen. So I worked out a deal with my buddy that I ended up getting something else, and I bought that card off him so I could keep it. But that kicked it off. I realized I was obsessed with the set. And the next thing was really understanding that I could go out and get an all-time great superstar like a Bret Hart, like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, or an all-time great that's in the ring now in a Roman Reigns, and I'm paying a fraction of the price what it would cost me to try to go out and get a Trey Lance. I'm a Niners fan. I can't afford a Trey Lance. Every card that's nice and shiny is way too expensive. But I could go out and actually build this set. So that kind of kicked off this entire, all right, I'm going after it. I want this 2020 finest set. I want as many of the wrestlers that are important to me or the industry as possible, because it's a really good checklist. And I want them gold or better. And I guess that's the goal.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I see you posting some stuff, and kudos, you're on your way. And I have a couple here for you that we'll talk about, and we'll take care of that.
We gotta figure that. We're gonna figure that out.
For sure. Now, 2 things I want to follow up with on the wrestling thing. And one was here on the list, and the other one I purposely left off because I wanted your raw reaction. No pun intended. But when you hear the term Montreal screw job.
All right. We're gonna go there. Let's do it.
What goes through your mind? And we'll get into, for those who may not know, we'll get into what it is. But first, what's your reaction when you hear that?
Really, especially with hindsight being what it is, there's a lot of like sadness that I feel about it. Because that was really the moment where Bret's career sort of ended, even though it didn't. He had several years, but the screw job happened. He's off TV, finally makes his big debut in WCW. At the end of the screw job, he's drawing the WCW on WWE television. It was a huge moment. And at the time, I was actually, I actually watched WCW every week as opposed to WWF, WWE now. I was just a Nitro guy. That was my show. So to find out that finally my favorite wrestler of all time was now coming to the company that I watched was a perfect marriage for me. He shows up at Starrcade in an atrocious attempt at recreating the Montreal screw job. He never really gets the due that he should have had in WCW. He was always lost in the shuffle with what was happening with the NWO. Finally, he starts to break out, gets the title. Goldberg kicks him in the head, and I'm not, there's a lot of drama about that. I think Goldberg has definitely made his apologies, and I do wish Bret could forgive him at some point. But so the screw job was really, to me, is like the beginnings of that sort of like really sad story. And then Bret has the stroke and the motorcycle accident, and it was just never the same for him after the screw job.
Gotcha. Yeah. And just give a quick rundown of what that screw job was, just so people who may not be familiar with what the hell we're talking about.
Well, I will try to keep it
as being one of them.
So
because it's just basically, but basically when that thing went down, it was almost like, I knew that wrestling wasn't quote unquote real at the time, but that was one of the more real things,
right?
That, were kind of business crossed in front of the camera. So
I mean, to be perfectly honest, Steve Austin gets a ton of credit for the feud he had with Vince, with Mr. McMahon, and making that Mr. McMahon character really one of the greatest heels in the history of wrestling. But it was Bret, both the screw job and things a little bit earlier, that started that character. And it's tough, but Bret doesn't get enough credit for actually really being the guy that started that, but whatever. But the screw job, to try to wrap it up as much as possible, basically the WWF, now the WWE, was having some financial problems, and and they didn't know if they could continue to keep Brett with the company. He had an offer come in from WCW. Vince decided that he was going to give Brett basically a lifetime contract. I forget all the details of it, but he offers him something like a 20-year contract that was actually going to carry over even after he was going to retire. He was going to have some backstage roles as well, because Brett was definitely getting older at that point. And then I think it's like a year later that Vince goes to Brett and he tells him, listen, we can't afford this contract that we came to agreement on. I encourage you to go back to WCW and figure out if you can get, a deal with them and do what you have to do. So Brett did that. But in the meanwhile, there was not only the length of that contract, but Brett was also given some creative control in that contract too, to make sure his character can go the way that he wanted it to go. So when this happened and he finally agrees to the new deal with WCW, he's going to go over there. He's the champion, and coming up at his final show, they were really trying to figure out how to get the strap off of him in the most fair way possible for everybody. You want Brett to look good, so he doesn't look like trash now going to his new company. You want, WWF to look good because they're they're a business. They have to continue to look good as well. So there's a lot of bad blood between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels at a real level. Shawn Michaels being, one of the best wrestlers of all time, but they really did not like one another. And the way Bret puts it is they wanted to give the strap to Shawn, but with all of their bad blood, Bret had conversations with Shawn where Shawn told him flat out, if it was the other way around, I would never drop the title to you. And so Bret was really in a tough spot. His contract wasn't being honored. He was basically, breach of contract. They were telling him, just go. I mean, they did nice letting him negotiate with WCW. And now they're asking him to drop a title to somebody he genuinely doesn't like, who was telling him they wouldn't do the same. And Shawn was notorious for being a really bad person at that time. He fixed a lot of things and came back a better man later. But at that time, he admits it all the time. He was an SOB, to put it nicely, I guess. So Bret did not want to drop the title, especially because it was happening in Montreal. That's why it's called the Montreal Screwjob. That was Bret's hometown. He's a hero there. I mean, he's like the Beatles in Montreal, in Canada as a whole. He's really a legend there. So he didn't want to drop the title at this pay-per-view to Shawn in that way. Supposedly, he said he would drop it the next day on Raw, and there was a lot of options thrown out there. But when it came down to it, Vince felt that the only way to get the title off of him was to pretend in a pretend world, which is interesting, right? So they were going to basically pretend that the match ends when it didn't. And to try to wrap it up, Shawn Michaels puts the sharpshooter on Bret. Bret is supposed to reverse it. Instead, Earl Hebner, the referee, rings for the bell, indicating that Bret tapped out, which he didn't. And all of a sudden, Bret realized, I just got screwed.
Yeah. So basically, the dude got worked over in front of everybody. So
his home crowd.
Yeah. So, but that's just one of those stories. So
that's
fast
Vince
forward.
For you.
Yeah. That's Vince for you.
That is Vince. I mean, he's cutthroat.
Yeah, for sure. So fast forwarding though, you recently met Bret Hart.
I
did.
Just
talk about that and how that went.
Yeah, it was excellent, pun intended. So I'd never met Bret. I had a few opportunities. In fact, when I lived in Los Angeles, there's a very relatively famous show called Frank and Sons Collectibles. And I think some of you guys had somebody on just recently who was talking about that show quite a bit. And I remember I was listening to that. And one thing to point out is that what makes that show so amazing is that not only is it, weekly, several times a week, the cards are awesome, but it's comic books, it's action figures. It's so eclectic, man. That thing is dangerous if you live out there for your wallet.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I just, real quick, I just talked to Mark the other day. We're exchanging DMs. So I'm like, dude, it's my mission in life to get to Frank and Sons.
Dude, do it.
I got to get there.
Absolutely.
See, Oz is now intrigued because he heard toys and stuff.
Yeah.
So
well, I said if I was living out there, I said my pockets would be hurting because if it's just there 3 times a week and it doesn't matter how much you try to save, there's just always going to be something there that catches your eye. And be spending.
No cover charge either. I mean, it's like going into just like a Toys R Us, but way a little bit more expensive probably. But yeah, so I was at that show because I'm a Hot Toys collector. Well, I was a Hot Toys collector. I've retired because of the cards. I can't have too many hobbies. But Hot Toys, for folks who don't know, is their 12-inch really lifelike action figures. I collect, you know, the Marvel stuff. Yeah, they have Star Wars figures as well. They have a lot of really great licenses, and these things are super lifelike. They're really, really high quality. And that show was great because you could go there and you could buy some from the third party stuff, third party vendors, you know, buy used ones or whatever. So I used to go there specifically for that. And one day I was there with my wife actually, and I came across, they had a poster, you know, Bret Hart's going to be there, and it was the weekend of my wedding. And I had scratched my brains like, is there a way I could just postpone the wedding and finally get to meet Bret? But it didn't happen. But you know, fast forward, what is it now? Like 2 weekends ago, I think it was. But he was in New Jersey at a place called Pandora's Box Toys and Collectibles, a fantastic shop if you're into the stuff that we're into. I mean, Oz, it's, you know, I don't know how far that is from you guys, and you're like in Philly, but man, that's worth checking out. It was a really cool little shop. But yeah, Bret was there. I met up with a buddy of mine that I met through Twitter. I actually met him for the first time at the National as well. Wow. But Chris Brancato, a big wrestling fan, really great wrestling collector as well. We'd been communicating for months before this let up, and he's the one, he actually shared the flyer on Twitter, and I said, I got to go to this. Let's make this happen. So I get there, you know, I'm in line with a bunch of wrestling nerds, which was great, you know, swapping stories, talking about, there was one guy that was showing us pictures from like 20 years with all the different legends he's had pictures with, you know, really cool stuff. But I brought it's actually kind of right under my shoulder there. Yeah. I brought that card. It's a white sparkle prism card.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah, which I wanted him to sign. I stressed over like testing all the different pens, making sure it was going to work out right. But me and Chris and I were in line together, and we got up there, and it was cool because you know, I just gave a really piss poor version of what the Montreal Screwjob was, but how much Bret and Shawn hated each other was real. They have since reconciled, but nonetheless, when Chris got up there, he told a story about watching WrestleMania 12 with his family, and that was, you know, Bret and Shawn faced off in an Iron Man match, 60 minutes, really fantastic, great match that had a lot of hype leading up to it. So Chris went up there and he basically explained how WrestleMania 12 was kind of like an inflection point for him. It made wrestling forever ingrained inside of him. It was like a life-changing moment. So then I got up there and I decided to tell a story about my 3-year-old daughter who was looking at his rookie card, his 1987 card, and asked me why his nipples were out. And Bret laughed, and he responded. He was like, he's like, it's a lot to explain, I mean, exactly right, Bret. I don't know. She'll find out later more about wrestling when she's old enough to really watch it. But it was cool, man. I got a chuckle out of Bret. He signed the card. It goes quick. I don't know if you guys ever done a meet and greet, or I think you guys did with Iverson, right? When you guys got to meet AI at the National.
Yeah, it goes quick.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you don't really get a lot of time, so I stole the time that I had to do that story, and it was really, really cool. But to kind of back up a little bit, when Chris was telling the story about WrestleMania 12, something I really loved was that Bret responded to that. I mean, he said, first and foremost, he did lose that match in overtime. He's like, even though I lost that, man, that was really like a top 5 or whatever he said, he was really praising it. And he also said Shawn was really on that night. And I thought it was just so cool that here in person, hearing Bret Hart give Shawn his due was really a pretty cool moment as a fan. I really dug that. So yeah, loved it.
After all the beef, he still has enough.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. For real. And he signed the card. The card looks great. I'm going to send it off to PSAs. I'm excited to see what it comes back as, just to really protect it, because I was there,
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. So, I mean, we got your background, Shane. So
my whole life story.
We know you love to collect, but you got to tell us what drove you to start this podcast, the Sports Card Nobody podcast. What led you to do that, man?
So like a lot of us, when the obsession took over, one of the things I have to dive into is education, right? It gets clear really quick if you want to collect cards of any sort that it is a deep, deep world. It's not, the first couple cards I was collecting, those fantasy football cards, they were score cards. I mean, they were 50 cents or whatever. They were nothing cards. I didn't know that. Then I learned that there's RPA cards. I don't remember that when I was a kid. So you start to really understand that there's so much here. So diving into all the different content, right? Whoever I could find. And it didn't take long to really understand that I'm a little out of my depth versus the type of stuff that I was watching. And specifically, and I'm not here to knock it at all, but sports card investor, Jeff Wilson, I was watching his stuff a lot. I do think there's a lot of education to take from it, but I don't know if it was the national the year before or some show he was at where he was trading a $20,000 card for a $20,000 card. All of my cards combined aren't even close to $20,000. Like, it's not even a drop in the bucket, probably. Yeah. So I just really was understanding that what I'm watching isn't really linking up with what I'm trying to do. So I figured I would start my own stuff, fill that void with my own voice, I guess, and sort of just do it. Now I have a background in content creation. I work in television full time, traditional television, so, more traditional content creation. So I've done it, for 15 years now, plus school and all that. And I've always wanted to kind of get into it, for something that I wanted to talk about. Yeah. And cards kind of just started to really make a lot of sense to do it for. I knew it would be fun. So I dove in. I started with a YouTube channel, realized quickly that my, eyes are a little bit bigger than my stomach with what I was trying to do for the YouTube channel. I had all these ideas and I couldn't keep up with it. 3-4 weeks in, I said to myself, this is ridiculous. It's taking too much time. It's getting too stressful. This isn't fun. So that evolved into the podcast. So that's where the nobody comes from. I get that question a lot is, the type of stuff that I'm going to talk about isn't going to be what they talk, what Card Collector 2 is talking about. It's not going to be what Jeff Wilson's talking about. I'm talking about a lot lower level stuff. And so I just wanted to own that a little bit, own the nobodiness of it, assuming there's other folks like me that actually care more about the collecting than they do the investment and the flipping. And full transparency, not just kiss your guys' butts, but listening to your guys' show is like, it felt like I found like a kindred spirit with the things you guys talk about and the way you guys talk about it, collect what you love. And, it's cool that this card goes up in price. If it does, if you buy something and all of a sudden you can sell it for double or whatever, that's great. Awesome. But man, all I want to do is have cards that say something about me, that express something about myself, that give it a little bit of a story and be my time machine. Give me that when I come into my office and I look at these things, take me back. So it just felt like there just wasn't enough of those voices. I wanted to be it. And now I've started to find more people like yourselves that do that. And we need a lot more of that and a lot less of the, people worrying about who's holding the bag. And I don't know, that stuff's not for me, I guess. So hopefully that answers the question.
No, definitely that. And that's exactly why Tony and I got into it, because it's like you start collecting, we're having fun. And Tony was like, man, we should do a podcast. And I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, you would never think about it. Like, you even had a background in it. We're just like two guys talking crap. You know what I mean? It's just like, whatever, let's do it. And here we are, and it's beautiful. But that's what the hobby does. It just brings out all these emotions. And like you said, the nostalgia and you don't have to be one of those guys that has the $20,000 car, the $50,000, and nothing wrong with that, And I always say they're to each his own, So we're not here to, blast anybody for having these dope ass cars, because I would love to have one of those cars if I could, you know what I mean?
You ain't lying.
So yeah, you know what I mean. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and talk smack about it, but at the same token, the hobby's not just that. I mean, you could always aspire to that, and if you're in it long enough, you'll get there. But for right now, I'm just, collecting stuff that I love, collecting the stuff that I like, and it's all good. So now that you're doing the content creation, now you said a little bit about the YouTube that you got a little bit, over your head, so what are some of the likes and dislikes of doing a podcast?
So the likes, I'll start there. I'll start with the positive. I talk about this a lot on my show too, that, I do this a lot for selfish reasons. It's really a way to force myself to kind of dive deeper into the hobby, force myself to kind of get out there more. I can definitely be, I don't know if introverted is the word or however you want to phrase it, but like, I wanted to like force myself to start to get involved with other folks in the hobby and start to grow my network, my friendships, my relationships, whatever it is, whatever words you want to put on it. So the podcast has tremendously helped that happen. I mean, I've had complete strangers reach out on Instagram, talk about the podcast. And then next thing I know, nobody cares about the podcast. We're just talking about cards for the next, months, as we keep talking. And that's really, man, that's the best part about it. Getting to the national too, you guys kind of mentioned this a little bit, but like by doing the podcast, it kind of at least makes my name somewhat known. So when I sit in the crowd with the other 4 people watching you guys talk, you guys are like, oh, hey, actually, I think I know that dude, right? So that's really the best part about having the podcast for me. I really, really dig that quite a bit. I guess the dislike though is trying to make sure you keep up with it. What happened a couple weeks back, maybe it was a month or so ago now. I forget why, but there was a reason I couldn't record on my standard time on Monday nights. And I usually get it out, 11:30 p.m. on Monday. And people usually hear it on Tuesday morning. I don't remember why, but I couldn't record until Tuesday morning. And I had folks reach out to me saying, hey, what happened to the podcast? It's coming up. Then the next week I got sick with COVID and I couldn't record it if it would have been brutal if I tried to do that.
Yeah.
And it was the same thing because I tried to put out on Twitter or whatever it was. Yeah, I think on Twitter, I put out, hey guys, I'm sick. I'm not going to record. And I still got people asking me, where the pod was. So there is a little bit of like trying to make sure you keep up with it, staying on top of it. And you kind of take on this extra responsibility for something that is just supposed to be a fun thing.
Yeah.
But I don't dislike that enough for it to be a real problem,
Yeah. It's funny you say that because after the national, I got COVID, and my wife got COVID, and my daughter got COVID. So if you really listen, like even now, like my chest is tight, my nasal, it's just not the same. And it's been this way the last 3 weeks, since the national. And Tony was like,
what you're saying is I should have just recorded
I'm not
toughened up and recorded.
No, but Tony was like, bro, if you can't do it, let me know. I'll do. I was like, nope. Show must go on. I'll figure out some way, somehow. So I was popping that medicine, getting those hauls, doing everything I could to, like you said, to try to make sure that the podcast keeps going. So I can relate to that aspect. But at the end of the day, it's worth it. My wife, again, just right before, she's like, hey, are you going to start making money off of this shit or what? Like, what's going on? I'm just like, no. I said, you know how difficult it is to try to make money off of this? She's like, I don't know, but you said I said, I never said that. First of all, you just keep asking about it. So let's not even go there. But I said, I was like, you can't put a price on what this does. Like you said, you're meeting people and you're just building relationships, man. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, for sure. Now, Shane, so we actually, we met for the first time at the National. Again, thanks for sitting in on us, talking all our crap. But so from give us your perspective of the National, good, bad, the ugly. We know Atlantic City sucks. We know it's a shit town. Oh, there you go, Oz. First time I ever cursed.
Bang. Got it. And I was here for it.
Yeah, and don't go try to, edit it out later on.
No, we're gonna leave it. We're gonna leave it go. But no, yeah. So just give us what you thought about the show and how it all went and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So by far the best part about the National for me is all the people. It was definitely high on my priority list that I wanted to shake hands and say hello to a lot of folks that I had either met, built relationships with through the virtual world. I wanted to, reach a point where it's okay, these people are actually real and I'm real. We're all real. Let's actually prove that at the National.
Yeah.
So that was phenomenal. I mean, I got to meet you guys. I got to meet John Weaver. I got to meet, after because you guys, I think, opened that day. You think you were the first show, our first panel at the main stage. I don't know why I think the main stage, the only stage at the stage that day. Yeah. And then that night there was a wrestling specific panel, which both of those were must see events for me. So getting to meet as many people as I did was absolutely phenomenal. The best part of the show. But beyond that, the way that I describe it is the National is a lot. It's a lot of walking. It's a lot of inventory. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of options, a lot of noise. It's a lot of everything. And it can be overwhelming. You walk in trying to figure out where you're supposed to go, trying to keep yourself in some sort of a, disciplined, track, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it was great. All of that allotness was exactly what you go there for. You're looking for things that you've never seen before. Something that my buddy and I saw, my buddy Justin, who came with me, Suplexes and Slap Shots on Instagram, shout him out real quick. He found some vendor was selling a box of hotel keys. What is that? I mean,
oh yeah, that's right. Did they have Yeah,
They
didn't they
were
have some? Yeah, they had players on them.
yeah.
Did they? I didn't
Yeah.
look at them. I just saw it just said hotel keys, and there was like a huge box just full of keys, and
Yeah,
I
because
don't
I
know.
think the commish was talking about that, and they had, like,
Okay.
special
Yeah.
players on them, like was it Gretzky?
Yep.
Like
Yeah.
Jordan and stuff like that?
Yeah,
I
they
mean,
had yeah, they
whatever
had
it was,
players. Yeah.
you're not gonna find that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen that at any of the shows here in Connecticut. I don't know about the Fishtown show you guys go to, but no
Mm.
hotel keys here. So there's a lot of like just wild off the wall things. I mean, you're talking like Babe Ruth tickets from when he called the shot. You're talking about like game used everything. I mean, the Mickey Mantles that you get to see the SGC 9.5. That's I don't know where the price ended up on that thing. $10 million card.
Yeah.
It's just so cool if you're really into this stuff. If you're into collecting, if you're into sports, especially, it's obviously very sports heavy. God, there's just so much awesomeness to take in. The bad, I mean, you already touched on the Atlantic City aspect of it, but I guess the bad that I would say is that I kind of regret is my buddy Justin and I, we bought the VIP thing, and that I don't know if that was worth it. I think I might have saved a little bit of money and bought my tickets a little bit different because you got a gift bag. Did you guys do the VIP thing? I mean,
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So you got the gift bag, which had almost nothing in it that was worthwhile. I mean, it was basically filled with flyers and
Yeah.
ads for other things. Um, I thought that the lounge came with like beverages. Outside of the first day, it didn't, which
Yeah.
was a little irritating. I thought, I can go get waters whenever I
Yeah,
want. Turns
exactly.
out I can't. I got to spend $4 like all these other poors that couldn't get the VIP. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
The only cool part about it, really, the lounge was still cool. It's a place to go sit, but getting in early was nice if you were in
Yeah.
a rush to try to get things done, before the crowds really picked up.
Yeah.
But you could still buy the 5-day early entry pass. So there's other ways to take advantage of that. So I really wish that they did a little bit more for the VIPs. I mean, the autographs, there was nothing in there that I thought was going to be worth the time. There were two guys that, when you look up the list of whoever it was, they had all the accolades underneath. There were two guys whose only accolades were unassisted triple play. I mean, that's cool, but am I really going to go get this dude?
Wait in line. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and no offense, I mean, I'm sure they're awesome people, but
Yeah.
but it just wasn't for me. So I wish the VIP felt a little more VIP.
I hear you.
But yeah, I don't know. I guess that's kind of how I felt about it overall.
Yeah. And you touched on the card scene. Like you said, we're from Philly, so we do the Philly show, we do the Fishtown card show. Talk about the card scene in New England. How's that up there for you?
So I don't want to talk about New England as a whole because I don't really know, but Connecticut, my particular state, we have a number of decent shops, which is cool. We have one that I love, Ideal Sports Cards. I talk about him a lot. Alex is the owner there. That's a really cool small shop, but he's such a great guy. Just going in and shooting the breeze with him is always fantastic. We have another shop called Ken's Cards and Collectibles, which as a wrestling guy is phenomenal. They have an entire room dedicated to just wrestling action figures and memorabilia and DVDs and cards. They have a ton of inventory there, and they have just all the sports. They have a ton of singles. But sports, like card show wise, we have a couple local shows that take place at Veteran Center, like the Plainville show, which is, again, it's cool to go to. It's, a couple bucks to get in. But the thing that gets me the most excited is the ECCA, which is a show that started in Mohegan Sun. I don't know, maybe 6 months ago is when I first got into the wrestling stuff. That's being put on by a guy named Scott DeMay, who's got this sort of hope of making this more of a destination show. He has a couple autograph folks show up to each one. The show's only happened twice now. The third one's happening in November. And the size and scale of that seems like it's going to sort of trump anything else that we have as a destination show here in this state. So that's really, really exciting. Mohegan Sun is a really gorgeous casino. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, if you like casinos or not. I don't know, but because they have a lot of fun entertainment there. They have fights that happen. Obviously, they have the WNBA team. So it's a really cool destination. I'm excited for the future of that show and what it could become. As it seems like it's, the first show to the second show, there were already improvements. It was already getting bigger with more vendors. So I'm really excited for what that might be.
Nice. Hey, real quick, touching back on the national, the Mickey Mantle, the 52 tops, like for me, that was like this big mythical card that I had never seen one in my life ever before the National. And dude, that card was everywhere.
Everywhere.
I was like, yo, I mean, I get it, but I'm like, oh, I mean, you know how like they say, like, oh, I can just go on eBay. If I can go on eBay at any moment and get the card, I'm like, man, for a $1 billion card, there sure is a lot of them in this room. Like, isn't that kind of
Yeah, but it is iconic, man. I mean, that
yeah,
set changed like the game, like
yeah,
things that we know about cards came from that set. But you're right. I mean, that card is I mean, that's about as common a card or as you can find. Um, so yeah, I guess it's great. Depending what you get the grade and all that stuff.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, you got to respect like what it did for the industry, I guess.
Mhm.
But you're right, it is everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. I would just, for some reason, I'm like, man, this card's like everybody's got like 4 or 5 of these. What's the big freaking
Right.
deal?
It's like finding Zion,
You
Zion
you
Williamson
Yeah,
don't.
cards everywhere.
yeah.
You ain't got 4.
No, I don't. I know. I'm like, geez, why don't I have 2 or 3 of
Dang,
these?
got him.
But
Say
yeah,
shit
for
again.
sure. But hey, so Shane, on a flip it to a little bit more of a serious note here. And
Getting
actually,
real.
yeah, something that actually took place at the National, and I'm talking about that whole BBCE 1986 Fleer box, whatnot break fiasco. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the situation, basically, a box of 86 Fleer was opened at the National. Some questions have come saying, saying the box was either not in the order that most 86 Fleer boxes are, and things of that nature. But to me, my whole thing is it boils down to Steve Hart, BBCE, who authenticated this box and said, "Hey, look, this is the real deal." So, just what are your thoughts on that? I have a couple thoughts, but just wanted to see what you thought about it, and we can kind of go from there.
Yeah, well, man, this also isn't the first controversy that we've heard about BBCE and Steve Hart. Obviously the Logan Paul stuff was national news. I mean, that was everywhere. I don't know if that mainstream is going to pick up what happened with this particular incident you're talking about, but it sure raises again a lot of questions about why you would trust this company and this guy, Steve Hart, who runs the company. I don't know how many sort of things at this level that can happen that you can continue to just want to give money to them. And we actually were talking a little bit about this before we got on air, but the fact that they don't guarantee what they're wrapping and what they're authenticating is a huge red flag. If you go out and you buy a Mickey Mantle, they're everywhere apparently from that's PSA slab. Turns out that's not real. PSA guarantees that, they're going to buy that card back from you at the market value because they stand by what they're putting in their slabs.
Yeah.
It's odd that you can just say something's legit, say something's not been tampered with, wrap it up, charge whatever crazy premium you're probably charging. And then when something goes wrong, your feet don't get held to the fire at all. There's a lot of weird question marks about that. And to go back into the Logan Paul thing a little bit, I forget the name of the YouTube channel that really uncovered all this, but it was a Pokemon collector whose stuff is really compelling and worth watching. But he really dove in deep trying to uncover everything. And one of the things he discovered about Steve Hart too was, I don't know if it was like within a year before he wrapped that Logan Paul case, there were emails and text messages, some form of paper trail that he had flat out admitted he didn't know much about the Pokemon world. And, next thing you know, he's authenticating the most iconic, important, and expensive case to exist. How do you get into that? I mean, money, because you realize you get to charge a huge premium. It is, I don't know how you can keep trusting that guy.
Yeah, 1000%. I don't, like I said, if there was ever a door open to start up a new authentication wax business, now's the time. Just because this guy, he, I will say, dude, he's a hell of a spin doctor. We heard the "we got duped," the Pokemon,
Yeah.
the famous line, "We got duped," and okay, but you're supposed to be you're supposed to be the man. Like
Yeah.
this everybody goes to you because you're the expert, and 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 again, the guy's human, I get it, and that's all cool.
Sure.
But my thing is that, like you said, there's no guarantee. He doesn't guarantee his work. So I'm like, well, how can you be the authority if you can't guarantee what you're even doing? Like that just doesn't make any sense to me. And man, I'm telling you, as I was diving deep into this thing, and I'm like, I learned a lot of things, that the 86 Fleer boxes were never sealed as far as there was no wax around, the cello, that just the case was sealed, but not the individual boxes. So um and that these guys build these what they call Frankenstein boxes, where they just pick packs from different ones and they make a box. And again, this guy up and authenticates it, and when the bomb blows up, he's like, well, you guys go ahead, and I don't know, there's nothing to see here.
Yeah, right. You
You know?
can't just brush that stuff off. I mean, you got to really own that. And both times with both of these big controversies we're talking about, it didn't feel like he really stepped up to the plate, said my bad, and did anything to make it right. Both times, because I mean, the statement that I had read about the national box, about the 86 Fleer, was he said that, while the cards do come in that particular order that most of the experts, and I don't know the order, I know that the order exists. I couldn't tell you what the right order is, but while that is true, that there's anomalies. But man, that's a weird anomaly that Card Collector 2 is pulling out, and they're all in alphabetical order. It's just, it is a real hard thing to stomach. And it also, I mean, how do you even begin to authenticate something like that? I don't even know how you do it, because when he talked about the Pokemon case, that Logan Paul case, he was saying like the stickers on the side didn't look tampered with, the tape looked fine. But I mean, that's it. How do you not even open that case? And I don't know. That is so crazy. And then for some dude on YouTube to realize, no, that sticker's not actually right. You don't know what you're talking about. And then come to the decision or the conclusion before anybody else that that's probably a fake case, leading to Logan Paul opening that thing up and saving himself $3.5 million, whatever it was he spent. Why is a guy on YouTube able to come to that with just photos and video more than the guy who had it in hand?
Yeah, it's tons of red flags. And even like, so if you're gonna authenticate a case, maybe you should be able to open it up and look and see what's inside, because otherwise it's just a brown box.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the tough thing, especially if it's sealed. You know what I mean? If there's stickers, like you said, that they're sealed. So then if the authenticator then opens the seal, does that then now take away from, the box being, sealed, quote unquote?
Sure.
So it's tough. I mean, unless you got some type of like 3D vision that you could see through the box or some shit, it's like,
right.
Yeah. I mean, I think I completely agree with that, because I mean, what they do, right, is they put their BBCE wrap on whatever it is they're authenticating. So why not open the box neatly, cut that tape with an X-Acto knife and do it as clean as possible, open it up, actually authenticate it, reseal it with your wrap. I mean, that is, I don't know, if you're Logan Paul, are you not going to buy that because that brown packing tape got cut open super clean? No, you're going to buy it because it's real, and it's as sealed's ever going to be.
Right. And you know what's in there.
Right. Beyond all shadow of a doubt. You know that you didn't spend $3.2 million on G.I. Joe cards. You bought what you think you're buying. Yeah. So somebody opened it up, but they didn't open it up and play with the cards. I mean, it's still as sealed as you're ever going to get, and you can actually guarantee what you see. To me, that's the way. I'm not playing in this league, right? I'm not buying those types of stuff, but I don't know. I would much prefer it get open and then actually sealed by them, and now we can trust what we're looking at, I would think.
Yeah, I can get behind that. But even I mean, it's on all levels. There's boxes that he can authenticate that are $20.
Sure.
There might be some old school stuff from the 80s or whatever. So it goes across the board. It's like, come on, man. Like, again, who knows what's in these boxes? So I wouldn't be opposed to, hey, if you want to open it up, nice, and do your thing, and then, but just
that baseball card exchange seal, once you see that wrap on there, you would know, okay, they backed that up. But that's a problem. It's not being backed up. So now it's just it's a farce. It's a farce.
Yeah, 100%. That is what it feels like. And I don't know if you have anything in a seal. I mean, doesn't that make you question what you're seeing? Right? Does it make you question what you have or what you bought?
Well, because since you're saying that, I mean, at the National, I had purchased. I have the Masters of the Universe It's a sealed box that the only reason that I purchased it was because it has the baseball card exchange, wrap, and I'm thinking this is a legit 1984, sealed box of Masters of the Universe. Now I have no freaking clue.
Do
It's
you
Rainbow
feel that
Bright.
way? Do you feel like there's a possibility?
I mean, there's always a possibility, of course. I mean, again, it's Masters of the Universe. What are the chances somebody's going to fake it? But the price that I paid for it wasn't cheap. It's the money I spent on that I could have put towards something real good, something real nice. But like I said, the only reason I did it was because BBCE, but now that I find out, oh yeah, if it's not that, we don't back that up, good luck.
Yeah. I mean, it also goes a step further too, where BBCE is the company. I don't know if they still do, especially after some of this controversy, but that PSA used them when they grade packs. So if you wanted a graded, sealed, authenticated pack of 86 Fleer, that's who they send it to. So now you've got multiple layers of people using this same company that we know it may not be that great at their job, I guess. I don't know. And I'm also making a lot of assumptions with just a few stories I've heard.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never met the guy. I never will, probably, so it's making a lot of assumptions from afar, but man, it would give me pause if I was spending that kind of money with them.
Yeah.
It's just three nobodies just, having our opinions.
That's right.
Yeah. But the problem is that this is, this is the hobby that we're in. And it's just like, this is messed up, man. And is this going to be another one of those hobby missteps that just, in a few weeks just get swept under the rug? And
it will.
Here we go.
It will. I mean, we saw a lot of people at the National who've had some missteps and getting a lot of cheers and a lot of love. So I don't know.
Yeah, man. This is upside. Do you want to talk about the upside down? Huh? I mean, it's like not for nothing, but if we rip off a couple people, we'd get a lot more followers. Just saying.
Oh man, marketing at its best.
Absolutely,
Absolutely,
any publicity is good publicity.
That's right.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, so let's get into something a little bit different. Get off the negativity. Let's get positive again.
All right, let's bring it up.
Keep focused.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Debbie Downer, Tony.
Anyone who follows Cousins Collectibles, they know that we're diehard Eagles fans, and we're chomping at the bit. The season's about to start. If you're in fantasy football, you're getting ready for those drafts, so it's about that time, brother. And you, sir, are a San Francisco 49ers fan. So how excited are you for your team this year? What do you think they're going to do?
Oh man, it is. Excited's not the word. Nervous, I think, is the word. So the Niners were, I mean, like one dropped interception away from going to the Super Bowl last year. That season was, man, it was such a weird season. I was trying to figure out exactly how they got there. So bizarre. I have not been a Jimmy Garoppolo fan for some time now. I like a lot of people, I thought the team was only going to go as far as, before he messed it up. And granted, if that interception gets made, they probably beat the Rams, but boy, does he make some sloppy plays, to finish that game out. But he's gone now, and we're finally moving on to the young kid. Trey Lance is going to get a chance to step up and maybe be the guy. There's already some preseason excitement that we've seen. You cannot really read into preseason stuff. When you're playing third string guys, you're going to, probably succeed. But I'm excited to see the kid play. I'm excited to see what he can do, with his arm running around. I've been fiending for that type of quarterback for a long time. We had Colin Kaepernick, who was almost there. He was overthrowing a lot of dudes, but when he would get going, he was almost impossible to stop. And we've seen so many guys really succeed. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is one of like the first, 2.0 quarterbacks where he could scramble everybody. He's also throwing darts to everybody.
Yeah.
I don't expect Trey Lance to be Aaron Rodgers, but I don't know if he can bring a little more athleticism and maybe try to hit his targets better than Jimmy ever could do. We'll see where he can take us, because the defense is still legit minus the secondary. But then again, we got the Rams still in the division, which is going to be, that's probably at least one loss. So I don't know. All that is to say, I'm nervous about the season. There was so much joy in watching them get as far as they did last year, but it all felt like the rug was going to get pulled out from under us,
Yeah.
and it did. And now, are we actually rebuilding? Starting the young guy, his first year, in his second year, he's going to be starting. We'll see. We'll see.
And with the Niners, like you said, you were just waiting. You just always had that feeling, like like you were watching the games, but you weren't believe what you were watching. It was just like, yeah, I see that. It's it's something's gonna happen.
Right.
Jimmy Garoppolo, you're just waiting for it, and the shoe dropped, and
Sure did.
But hey, it was a better season than most. So
better season than
I won't even go there.
What about you guys, man? You guys excited?
Hey, listen, bro, same way that you're excited for your guy, Jalen Hurts, second year. We got him the weapons. Our defense is fully loaded. We definitely got a lot of potential. I'm not saying we're winning any Super Bowl or anything like that, but I think we can build off of last year. We got rocked when we got into the playoffs. We got blown out. Now it's expected. Jalen Hurts got exposed. So this is make it or break it for Jalen this year.
Right.
If he doesn't come and step it up, he has to prove that he can stay in the pocket, take that hit, make that accurate pass. A lot of people talk about his arm not being the greatest. We all know he can scramble and get out, but the biggest thing is like they want him to stay in the pocket and run the offense. So we're going to see, and they got him the weapons. You
got to do both. You can't there's been a lot of guys who found some success, and I don't know. I feel like I might have some unpopular opinions here, but outside of the 1 year, Cam Newton, to me, was never the guy that was going to make the throws he had to throw. Again, the year they went to the Super Bowl and he won the MVP, all of a sudden it felt like he was doing things that he couldn't do. And then it felt like once that Super Bowl happened, we was, oh, no, he can't actually do those things regularly. But, man, you get him close to the goal line, you couldn't stop the dude, right?
Yeah.
But you got to be able to do both. I have the same question marks about Lamar Jackson. He might be one of, if not the best athlete in the NFL. I mean, there's a couple of guys, Tyreek Hill probably has something to say about that, but man, Lamar is probably in that category. But if he can't get in or stay in that pocket on occasion and still throw the darts that he's got to throw, what happens? What happens when the defenses can figure out how to slow you down just a little bit and you're somehow overthrowing Hollywood Brown, right? One of the fastest guys in the league. It's just, I'm really hoping Trey Lance can be the combination of both. We'll see. Hopefully Jalen Hurts isn't, because screw the Eagles. But
let's go.
And I actually have nothing against the Eagles, but I rooted so hard against you guys when you got TO from us for like a bag of donuts. Not even a cheesesteak. It was a bag of donuts.
Don't even get me started on that. I miss me some. I love me some me. That was my guy, man. TO. So hey, Shane. So coming down the home stretch, we'll end this like we usually do. What piece of advice would you give a person coming in new to the hobby? How would they be successful or avoid some of these crazy things that we talked about today?
Well, being successful in the hobbies is such a big category, right? What is it you think is successful? What does success mean to somebody? And I think that's kind of a big thing to kind of figure out is really, what is it you want to do with the hobby? Are you trying to make money? Are you trying to collect something? What are you trying to collect? There's so many lanes to go down. I just had a guest on my show, Contrarian Cards, who somehow has one of the most eclectic collections that I've seen. I mean, he has everything. He collects Magic the Gathering and Game of Thrones. He collects football, baseball, vintage, ultra modern Star Wars. It's all over the map. How you keep up with that, I don't really understand. Like I definitely found my lane with the wrestling lane. Now I want to collect baseball cards. I want to collect football cards. I want to collect basketball cards, and the Marvel stuff as well. I have a lot of things I like, but it does help. And I felt the most fulfilled once I hit this actual goal. Go get this 2020 WWE Finest set. It's very similar to when I actually first really got back in the hobby, where I was going after those fantasy football MVPs. So finding these sort of like goal pieces, it doesn't have to be grail pieces. You hear that a lot, and definitely go chase your Bob Clementes, right? Get those. I mean, that's awesome. But, finding these sort of little goals to sort of fill out at a time, to me, has made it feel the most fulfilling. It's really hard to do when you first start out, to figure out what that success is and to figure out what you want, because there's so much noise. There's so much influence. There's so much FOMO, all this stuff that's going to come out. You're going to watch these YouTube videos. You're going to listen to these, podcasters who don't really know what we're talking about either. We're just trying to have fun. You're going to listen to us and like, oh man, maybe I want to go collect wrestling cards. Do you want to collect wrestling cards? Figure that out. So really take time to figure out what your passions are and what you're trying to do with this hobby. And once you start to figure that out, after you buy a bunch of stuff, you realize you don't actually want, and you can hopefully sell those and buy the things you want. That's where you're going to be the happiest. I think that's where I'm the happiest.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, because I mean, figuring out what you want to do is a big part. And I mean, I know I learned the hard way sometimes, and especially when I first started, it was like trying to collect 30 things at one time, and
Right.
that's just not, it's not conducive to a good collection.
Not to me, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Shane, but before I kick it over to Oz, let everybody know where they can find you, when your show is on, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, Sports Card Nobody. So you can find me on Instagram at Sports Card Nobody. I'm on Twitter at Sport Card Nobody. I'm on Facebook as well. And I record on Monday nights. So usually my episodes drop late Mondays. You can usually hear them early Tuesdays, everywhere you listen to podcasts, all that same stuff. And you can find me here on the Collectibles, Cousin Collectibles podcast.
There it is. There it is. Hey, Shane, we appreciate you coming on board, brother. You are a somebody. You are not a nobody. We appreciate you, brother. Thank you for the support, the national. And here we knew we had to get you on, brother. So keep doing what you're doing, man. Spreading that good positivity out there and calling out the people when they need to be called out. You know what I'm saying? And we try to keep it focused, keep it positive, but sometimes you got to get in the weeds and figure out what's going on. But like I said, we thank you for coming on board, and we gonna finish this like we always do. Keep focused, keep positive, and keep collecting. Hey, yo, Tone, bring the beat back.